My parents sent me to school so that I should not be a boy in the yard for any despot in this country. And I will be true to them and true to my children by fighting this despotism that is taking place in Barbados. And I've been patient. I haven't gotten into it. But what has happened, as I said, they're but for the grace of God.
Mr. Arthur says all sitting MPs speak to journalists, and it's improper to charge Dr. Agard for speaking to the press when she did so in defense of herself, given that the charges had been fully ventilated in the media.
The branch executive put things in the media about Maria Agard, saying that she's useless. I believe that a person who has been so attacked has a right to defend themselves in the public domain. And that this is a wrong. That is outrageously wrong. And that the media itself, I believe, has to sit down and discuss, are we going to allow something like this to stand in Barbados? Can somebody be a pariah for talking to us about a matter concerning themselves? This is a very serious day in the history of Barbados democracy. And I really am not going to keep quiet about it anymore. I'm sorry.
MP Dr. Maria Agard, the woman at the center of the dispute, has signaled that she remains committed to the ideals of the Barbados Labour Party, as reports indicate that she could be mounting a legal challenge to her expulsion.
Certainly it's a case of democracy and good governance that is at stake here. But I intend to have a press conference sometime later this week. All of you will be invited to that conference, and I will be more than happy to answer all of your questions then.
Can you confirm whether the legal challenge is being mounted to this decision?
I am sure that when we have the conference, I will be able to speak with you extensively on any decisions that I intend to make.
Okay, when you go into Parliament today, you plan to sit as an independent, obviously.
Yes, I intend to.
Do you plan to cut all links in light of the decision with the Barbados Labour Party? Or are you still a committed person to the ideals and philosophy of the party?
I would say at this time, indeed I am.
Okay, it has not happened before, but if indeed a legal challenge is mounted, you believe the court, if the court hands down a decision, you can't preempt it, but overturning, that would you, if the court so rules, be willing to try to mend fences with the Barbados Labour Party?
I am a peacemaker at heart, and my interest is Barbados and the people of Barbados. As I said to you, when we have the press conference, I am going to be more than happy to answer all of your questions. I need to have a word with the speaker now, so if you would excuse me, we shall chat later.
Dr. Agard, thank you very much. Senior BLP member, former government minister and Queen's Counsel George Payne also believes Dr. Agard's expulsion from the BLP is a tragedy. On reflection, about 48 hours after what has transpired, we have just spoken to a former Prime Minister, Arthur,
former Prime Minister who is no longer a member of the Barbados Labour Party,
but who led it for three terms.
Yes.
He's termed this a tragedy. At this stage, we are hearing in the pipeline that a legal challenge is possibly being mounted, and Ms. Agard says she'd speak to it later at a press conference. What are your thoughts when you look back? He's called this a tragedy. What are your thoughts?
Well, I concur. If I was in Ms. Agard's position, especially taking the circumstances into consideration, I would do the same thing.
Do you believe it's too late for the organs of the party to look to re-examine itself on this matter?
Well, if there's a challenge in the courts, make a declaration to the fact that what went down was not more or less fair to Ms. Agard, I have no doubt, because the members of the National Council, they are human beings like you and I, and they have children, they have girl children, and they have wives, and they have women, and I think that it is fairly obvious that they would act. As I said, I'm still in shock.
Mr. Arthur put it further. He said that a despot is in charge of the Barbados Labour Party, and that the Barbados Labour Party has become a plaything of Mayor Motley, and that the party has lost its soul. Your comments is perhaps one of the most senior members of the party.
You are asking me to comment on somebody else's opinion, and I don't think it would be fair for me to do that.
If you had to give Maria Agard any advice, what would you tell her at this time?
Continue doing what she's doing. She's been a very good representative. It's fairly obvious that there are certain things that she cannot do that previous representatives have done in that constituency. We've had the two wealthiest members of parliament in recent times representing that constituency. There are a number of persons who complain that Miss Agard don't pay their funeral bills, don't buy school books for their children, and a lot of things that former members were able to do, she cannot do. In politics, some people, or rather there's a saying in politics, you either have to spend time or spend money. Miss Agard has been spending time with her constituents, and I have no doubt, that she should continue doing what she's doing. I believe that I honestly believe that Miss Agard will be the Barbados Labour Party candidate in the next general election, but I don't know. I can't say with any degree of certainty. I say I believe that. I can't guarantee you that, but I still believe that Miss Agard will be the Barbados Labour Party representative in the next election. Rather.
What makes you believe that?
It makes me believe. One, as I said already, I don't believe that the party would ignore if there's a challenge and the challenge is in her favor. I don't think that the Barbados Labour Party will be too proud to go back on its decision. Secondly, a national council is there for 1 year, and if the election is called in 2018, a new national council can reverse that.
Has this caused a rift in the party, would you say?
I'm not aware of any rift in the party. It's a political party. It is not a Sunday school. There is no rift in the Barbados Labour Party. There might be one individual in the Barbados Labour Party who might be causing certain things to happen. I say might be, but I'm not saying that there's any rift because there's a lot of harmony among all the members of the Barbados Labour Party as far as I know.
As a senior lawyer and as a senior member of the party who would have seen other things, disciplinary measures brought against other people from both sides of the divide, do you believe Ms. Agard was afforded what is called due process, or the laws of natural justice were adhered to?
But it isn't a question of what I believe. The facts speak for themselves. Do you believe that? I mean, taking everything into consideration, as I've already said, all of us would be guilty of the type of conduct that Ms. Agard has been accused of, because the very nature of politics. We are politicians and we have to speak out on certain issues, whether we go to the press, no matter what it is. And, it is true that we should work with our executive, but I'm not aware of the fact that Ms. Agard refused to work with her executive. What she did say was that the executive which she was called upon to work with was improperly constituted. Now that's a question that needs to be re-examined. Question of the procedure. There's no set procedure with respect to the disciplinary hearings in the Barbados Labour Party Constitution, and it's only fair that if there's no set procedure that those rules should have been worked out before in advance of any hearing, and also that the persons who would have adjudicated on the matter would not be her accusers.
Finally, from me, do you believe the Barbados Labour Party has enough time to recover from this to fight the general election?
But I don't know what you're talking of recovering from. We are not down on our knees. I mean, nothing has happened as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you've had a problem with a member, but that doesn't mean that the Barbados Labour Party has anything to recover from. The Democratic Labour Party has more to worry about at this particular point in time than the Barbados Labour Party. I don't see any issue with respect to recovery. These are things that happen in any political party. If you go as far as Australia, you see that that they have even removed a sitting prime minister, not a leader of the opposition, a sitting prime minister, and yet every life went on as usual.
Culture Minister Stephen Lashley believes the BLP's decision to expel Dr. Maria Agard is a sad day for democracy in Barbados, and he's contending that it's sending a bad signal to the youth and women of Barbados.
I think it's a very unfortunate situation that we've witnessed in Barbados. I believe that what you have seen within the ranks of the Barbados Labour Party is an assault on a youthful politician, somebody who represents, in my view, women and young people. I believe that it is a sad reflection on what democracy means within the Barbados Labour Party. And I think that in politics, we have to do everything possible to encourage the rise of youth and youthful individuals. So I believe that what has happened does not argue well for that particular regard. And it is really a sad reflection on democracy in Barbados. I believe that we have seen an assault on the right to free speech, And I believe and I hope that it really does not represent what we are doing within politics in Barbados. I think politics in Barbados has to reflect the reality of what we try to teach our young people. We want to encourage as many people as possible to be involved in politics and to see it as part of a national contribution and not to be cut short in terms of what we teach our people. We teach our people that we have a live constitution which guarantees certain rights and certain responsibilities. And what I see happening is really a backward step in that regard.
And do you believe, I heard you speak last time Parliament met, I think that was the 17th, that because her association with you and hosting a constituency event was deemed as, or a Christchurch event was deemed as one of the things working together with the opposition, the government and the opposition working hand in hand. Do you believe politicians from both sides of the divide should be willing to do this?
Well, I don't believe that that kind of collaboration represents an evil thing, as what I see it has been made out to be. I think it's a very healthy thing when we can come together at appropriate times and act in the interest of the community. I believe at the end of the day we are in politics to represent the wider interests of Barbadians, and if it is that a community wishes to put aside partisanship and to entice and to encourage representatives to come together in the interest of the broader community, then I believe that that ought to be encouraged. I think that there's a time and place for politicking, there's a time and place for electioneering, but at the end of the day we have to be able to build a Barbados that reflects not only our forefathers in terms of their aspiration for unity and community togetherness, but we can't on the one hand preach community togetherness. We can't be talking about getting rid of violence in all of its forms and not show as parliamentarians outside of election that we can get together in the interest of the community. So that's where I stand. I stand as a Barbadian in the interest of the wider good of Barbados, and wherever there's an opportunity to take that mission forward, I'm very happy to do that. I believe that both parliamentarians from all sides of the House have to be able to put aside partisanship at times. We attend events at times together, and that, you know, it's really sad when you could see that kind of collaboration as representing a backward step. I thought it was an opportunity to push a particular agenda, but where does that leave politics? Where does that leave encouraging young people, and in particular young females, in terms of getting involved in politics? And on the one hand, we talk about we need to get more women involved in politics, but on the other hand, you seek to cut them down because they dare to have a different opinion. I believe we have to find avenues in Barbados for differences of opinion. And that differences of opinion does not mean that you are, you know, on a particular mission to destroy. We have to encourage differences, and we have to mold differences in a way that move us forward in terms of developing our country. So I think that when you have anything that destroys that, I think we have to stand up as a country and denounce it wherever it appears.
Also weighing in is Minister of Transport Michael Ashley. He believes the Barbados Labour Party's National Council's decision to expel Christchurch West MP Dr. Maria Agard was wrong, and he's contending that the decision of the party did not follow the laws of natural justice. Just want to get your reaction to the expulsion of Maria Agard from the Barbados Labour Party. What are your thoughts on the matter?
Well, I think we need to go back to first principles. You cannot charge someone and then the same body who charges seeks to hear the case or determine the case. I think it's totally wrong and against the principles of natural justice. But that is the Barbados Labour Party way, so I can't tell them how to run their shop. But not anyone with an LEC should understand the principles of natural justice, or LLB.
But do you believe the provisions of both parties?
I can't speak to that, but all I'm saying, looking at it from face value, I take the basic principle of natural justice. And as a trained lawyer, I think that you cannot charge, a body cannot charge someone, and then that same body that charge cannot determine the hearing. It's wrong, against the principle of natural justice. Totally wrong. It's unjust.
What does it say to the wider society? Because some of the substantive charges were that she spoke to members of the media in defense of herself.
Well, again, it speaks again to the issue of natural justice. Natural justice is a golden principle, and the principles of natural justice should be observed. It takes you back to first principles.